In this lesson, what we're going to be talking about is the static mesh browser. We're going to be talking about all of the different options available inside the browser, so in other words, how you can use it, some of the different neat things that you can do with it. We'll also spend a little bit of time and talk about packages and how we can cross-reference static meshes from other maps. So let's go and get started. Very first thing I want to do is show you guys where you can get the static mesh browser from. There's a couple of different places. First of all, if we come up here to the top, you'll see we've got a toolbar, and if we click on View and then simply come down, you'll notice that kind of in the middle area we've got a whole bunch of different browser types that we can select from. If we come down here, second one from the very end of all the different browsers, you'll see Show Static Mesh Browser. Go ahead and click on that. And this is going to open up our static mesh browser. And it's actually one of many different browser types that we can choose from that are all very important in their own sense when creating maps for UT2K3. Now let's go ahead and come back over here to static meshes. Now we're going to talk about the breakdown of the browser in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and show you another very common area that you're going to launch the browser from. Let's go ahead and close it. And that is if we come up here to this toolbar, you'll notice that we've got a series of icons kind of near the middle right here, and these are all of the different browser types that you can open. You'll notice we've got actor class browser, we've got group browser, music browser, etc. If we slide all the way down here to this little arch icon right here, this is our static mesh browser. This is generally the way I get to it. So we'll go ahead and click it. So the static mesh browser. Okay. Now before we start talking about all of the different icons and tabs and buttons and options, let's go ahead and spend just a second, Logan, and talk about packages. So what exactly is a package?
In this case, a package would be where you store your static meshes.
Okay.
A package can be in its own file, or it can actually be part of the map itself.
Okay. So when you say its own file, I guess it's a good idea to go ahead and let them know that under the UT 2003 folder, which is where the whole game is stored, you're going to find a folder in there called Static Meshes. And we can go ahead and show that if we come up here to the menu at the top and click on File and come down to Open. There it is, Static Meshes. And right now what we're looking at is a whole bunch of different files in here, and all these files end with a .usx extension, and these are all package files, right?
Right.
Okay, and if we load any one of these packages in, then we'll have access to all of the different static meshes that are stored inside of that package or that file.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's pretty simple. And then you also said that we have the ability to store the static meshes inside the level itself, so using the level or the map kind of as the package, if you will. And this is when we store to
the My Level package.
Okay, so if we actually had a static mesh and we saved it to the My Level package, it'll be saved inside that map.
Right.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if I gave my map to somebody else, just the map, and I had saved all of my static meshes to My Level, then they're going to have all of my static meshes.
Right.
Okay, so that means that file size could possibly get kind of large.
It could, but you're going to have that much file size anyway if you just stored them in USX files, because then you have to give them the USX files.
Exactly. Okay, very good point. All right, so now let's go ahead. Now that they have a little bit of an understanding about packages, we'll be talking about them more, of course, as we start diving into all the features of the browser itself. But let's go ahead and break down the major areas of the browser. First, across the top, we've got our menu bar, and we'll come back to the menu bar. In fact, we'll come back to each of these areas and address the different things found inside it in just a few minutes. We've got our menu bar. Up underneath that, we've already taken a look at the tabs that simply allow us to switch to different browsers. From there, we'll find a toolbar that's got icons, just general tasks that you do more often when working inside the browser. Up underneath that, we've got a drop-down window right here, and this drop-down will allow us to see and choose from all of the different packages that we've loaded so far. Okay? And now when we first launch Unreal Ed for the first time, do we have things already in this drop-down window, Logan?
Yes, you do.
And why is that?
Probably because those were set as edit packages in the UNI file, or just ones that's dependent on to load.
Exactly. Okay. I just want them to be aware that they will find that there's already some available in there. Okay, up underneath there, we've got another drop-down window and an All button, and this is really cool. Up to this point, we've been talking about how a package holds all of your static meshes, but sometimes you may run into a situation where you may have, let's say, 50 different static meshes that belong all into one package, and you may have, and of course, let's just say that all of these static meshes have all been modeled to a particular theme or a particular look. Well, you know, it still may be kind of difficult scanning through 50 different static meshes, so you have the ability to organize them further inside the package by putting the static meshes inside of groups, okay? And so right here, this drop-down will allow you to see all of the different groups that are available inside the current selected package, and then you could simply select that group that you want, and then it'll show you only the static meshes available inside that group over here on the left-hand side. Now, if we want to, we could come over here and click the All button, and then what All would do is basically, notice how it's disabled this drop-down window. It will show you all of the different static meshes that's available inside the current selected package. Logan?
Exactly.
Okay, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that. Let's go ahead and turn all back off. That can be very convenient. Inside the Bulldog meshes package right now, there's only a couple of things, so we're not actually seeing a lot of really cool stuff.
And only one group.
And only one group, exactly. So, and that's called simple. So in a few minutes, we'll take a look at something that's a little bit more involved, and that'll allow you to see how the groups work. Okay, from there, coming down into this area, obviously the little window that allows you to view your static mesh. This is a very important window. The the mouse buttons to move around or manipulate inside this view are the same as you'll find back over here inside your viewports inside of Unreal Ed. So it's real easy to simply just rotate around, to look up, look down, etc. Okay, now coming down up underneath it, we've got a series of parameters. They're kind of global properties for the static mesh. So changing any of these properties in here will affect all of the static meshes that are currently in your map, correct?
Correct.
And if you save the package after making these changes, which of course you would need to if you were, doing something like that.
Right, if you wanted to actually keep those next time you load the editor.
Exactly. Then what's going to happen is all of the maps that are using this particular package and using that particular selected mesh or static mesh that you've made the changes to would inherit those changes right then.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's see. Where do we want to start, Logan? How about
menu set.
Yeah, let's go ahead and come up here and, let's just start right here with the toolbar.
Okay.
Because a lot of the things up here are going to be related to this. This allows us to knock out some of the common things quickly. First thing over here, we got an icon that says Toggle Dock Status. I don't know about you guys, but I would recommend not clicking this for the simple fact that we've got several machines here, and all of the machines that we run Unreal Ed on. If we click this button, we get a nice little crash every time. Now, it does work with some of these other types of browsers, and what it does basically is it undocks the browser so that you can have a floating single browser of that particular type that you can then move around anywhere on your scene or screen, excuse me. But as far as static meshes are concerned, don't click it. We haven't had any luck with it. Moving on from there, we have Open Package. Simple enough. Click it. We can go in and select the package that we want to open up. Okay. Over from there, the next icon we have is a little disk. Don't leave your mouse on it too long because it's going to tell you next group, but what it really should say is save package, and all that will do is save all of the changes that you've made to your current package if you may have loaded in new static meshes or changed properties, etc. Okay. Moving on from there, we have got load entire package. Now, what load entire package will do, let's just kind of back up and say, remember this? Back here in our intro, we talked about this very basic little hallway that we created, and it's made up 90% by just simple static meshes. Well, if we come in here and we drop this down so that we can see all of the different types that we have available, we come down here to pipe static. And pipe static is where we got all the pieces that you see back here. Now, pipe static, that package has a lot more static meshes than the 5 that you see listed right here. If I click all, you'll notice that that's all of them. Well, when you load up a map with static meshes saved in it, it's going to load those packages, but it's only going to load the actual static meshes that you're using inside your map, right, Logan?
Exactly.
And if you want to gain access to all of the different static meshes that's in that given package, then what you can do is simply come up here and click on the load entire package and watch what's going to happen over here. So we'll go ahead and click that. It's going to pause for just a second as it goes in and it loads all of the different static meshes that's available inside the pipe static package. Now if I come over here and click this drop down, well, General doesn't have, or excuse me, the groups doesn't have anything other than General, so I was hoping that that would work as a decent little example, but oh well. Let's see, another thing that we could do, we'll get to that in just a minute. All right, so go ahead and come on over. Now we've got Create Static Mesh from a selection. This is extremely nice. This allows us to go in and select brushes or other static meshes that exist inside our scene currently or inside our map, and turn them into a new static mesh. So in other words, if I wanted to, let's say I want to grab, I don't know, let's go ahead and let's come over here. Let's say I want to grab this guy and perhaps this guy and maybe even that guy over there, okay? And I want to turn these 3 different static meshes into a single static mesh. then I could just come up here and click on this Create Static Mesh from Selection. So we'll go ahead and click it, and it opens up this dialog, and it's looking for three different things. It's looking for a package name, it's looking for a group name if we want to put it in a group, and it's looking for a new name that we're going to call this static mesh. So let's say package name. Logan, what do you want to give it?
Let's just put it in my level.
All right, so we'll put it in my level, and pop quiz. That means when we actually save this map out, what are we doing?
Then we're saving this mesh will be saved in a package but stored inside the .ut2 file, not in a separate package file.
Exactly. All right, now let's come down here to group. Let's leave group empty for the moment. Let's go ahead and drop down here to name, and let's just call this, I don't know, my creation. Sounds good enough. Go ahead and click OK. Okay, so there you go. Now, take a look at this. If I come over here, drop down to select the different packages that are loaded, come to my level has got one thing in it, my creation. Okay, and there it is. Just a couple of things that we threw together quickly. But the cool thing is this now acts as just a single static mesh. And let's go ahead and point out something else. If I come back over here and select one of these guys, let's see, find somebody to pick on. Let's see, his draw scale is 1, -1, and 1. Let's select somebody else. Let's see, this guy over here. Move out of my way. All right, this guy right here, take a look at this. Down here, his scale is set to -1.7, -1.7, and 1.7.
Yeah, I got some funky scaling going on.
That's
there.
okay. This was just, again, for this example here. But watch this. If I take this new thing right here and put it back into my actual map, and let's just go ahead and kind of move down here, and let's just turn our lights off, basically. Okay. So let's say right about there. And click this last icon, which is Insert Static Mesh into Level. And what it's going to do is basically it's going to insert the static mesh where my camera currently is. So let's just kind of line our camera up right about there. Let's go ahead and click this. And then we'll just come in here and kind of back away. And we can select it. But watch what happens. When I select it now, just clicking on one of the pieces selected the entire thing. Okay? And we do actually have a bit of a problem right now. Can you see what that problem is?
Let's see. The scales are, let's see. Okay, that goes back to my funky scaling I had on stuff. Some stuff I had to scale negative and others not.
That's
right.
So
then it had to grab all these static meshes, but of course a static mesh can't be scaled negative and not at the same time. It's just...
Well, the problem we've got is the ones that you've scaled negatively to the other side. Look at the normals. They got flipped. So in other words, what I mean by flip, for those of you guys out there that are not sure exactly what we're talking about, this piece over here, this curved piece, is actually correct right now. You can see the pipes, etc. But if we were to come around to the back of it, okay, you'll notice how we can actually see through it to the other side, okay, which is the way it should be. Our normals are facing out on this side. Looks good. Now, over here, on this little grate system, notice how it's a bit inverted. We're seeing the inside of it as opposed to an outside wall right here. And that's because the normals on it are flipped. And if we were to go back and look at the actual object that we had selected, we would see that its scale was set to a negative. And having scale set to negative will end up, once you actually create a new static mesh out of the object that's got negative scales on it, will actually flip the normals. So that's just something to be careful and watch out about. But the neat thing about this is, right now I can come in here, a single click, the entire thing has been selected. Okay, it acts as one static mesh at this point. And if we look over here at the bottom, look at its draw scale, 1, 1, and 1. Okay, so it's not those real funny numbers that you were using a minute ago where we had scaled it down to fit in there.
Right, it just grabbed all the meshes at their current size, threw them into a new mesh, and said that that size was its scale of 1.
Exactly. Okay, so that points out a couple of good things right now. And it is kind of neat to point out, don't be fooled. Notice how when you actually look inside the viewport right here, take a look at this. Looks good, doesn't it?
Right. The little viewer window there will generally show faces double-sided.
Exactly.
Even if they're not.
Okay. Which means if you did have a normals flip situation, you wouldn't even know.
Right. You'd have to add it to the level to see.
Exactly. Okay, so that covers all these icons right here. So now let's go ahead and jump up here to the menu bar. So we've got File, Open, Save, and Import. Let's go ahead and come down here to Open. We already saw that we can open up static meshes, but we did mention just briefly a little bit earlier that we can also cross-reference from other maps as well. So let's go ahead and go up a level. Okay, so now we're up underneath the UT 2003 folder. And then from here, what I want to do is come down here to Maps. And then from Maps, let's go ahead and change our file type from a static mesh package just come down here to all files. So now we're looking at the .ut2 files. These are all of our maps. And let's come over here and open up, I don't know, let's see, Painbender. It's a custom CTF map that Mr. Logan has downloaded. Let's go ahead and open that up and take a look at this. Remember how we was talking about actually taking static meshes and saving them to the MyLevel package? Then when you save your map out, those static meshes are actually inside that package. Well, that's what's going on right here. You can see as we come through here, this is this guy's static meshes that he's created right here. Okay? Make sense, Logan?
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that?
It's basically just, instead of the package being in its own file, the package now is inside that .ut2 map.
Right. And cool, check it out. We've actually got two groups here that we can show. So we've got the one group, and we switch over to another group. Take a look at this. All different things. Okay? Go ahead and hit all, and now we can see everything at one time. Just finally allows me to come back and talk about that. All right, so let's see. Who do we want to switch back to? Let's go ahead and come back into MyLevel, working with the one that we had, put together in there. All right, so let's go ahead and come back up here. So that's open. Save. This is going to allow us to simply save changes made to the package. And import, what import's going to allow us to do is simply come in and, in fact, let's just go ahead and come up here to UT 2003. It's just going to allow us to import in one of two different file types, basically an ASE. In fact, if I point to them down here, this will work. An ASCII file. This is what's exported out of 3ds Max, and we'll be covering this a little bit later on. And we can also import Lightwave files directly, Lightwave object files. So let's go ahead and leave it on our ASCII format. I'll come up here. We've got one called My Walkway. Let's just go ahead and import this in real quick. So I'll tell it OK. We're going to get a dialog box that says you want to import a static mesh. What package do you want to put it in? We'll leave it in MyLevel. Any specific group, we'll leave that blank. And what do you want to call this? I'll just call it My Walkway. I'll go ahead and tell it OK. And it's going to give us a warning because there's no materials assigned to it. I'm just going to click OK. These are things we're going to talk about a little bit later. But take a look at this. We're still in MyLevel. And down here on all the static meshes that's available inside that package, we now have My Walkway, which is this little bitty guy way down here. Okay? And remember how it said it didn't have a material? Since it didn't have a material, it's just assigned this default texture to it.
Right.
Okay? All right, so let's see. What else we got we can talk about, Logan? All right, down here, of course, we've got all of the different packages that we've loaded that we can, quickly come back in here and reload in. These are recent ones.
Recent list.
Yeah. All right, coming over here to edit, we have the ability, if we want to come in and delete one of these, to simply delete it, and there you go. And if I delete the very last one that's in the package, what's going to happen to the package, Logan?
It's going to disappear.
Exactly. So we'll leave this guy in here because, well, we need him for the moment. We can come down here and we can select rename, which gives us the ability to rename rather the package that this is in. So if I do MyLevel 2, what it's going to do is take this static mesh, pull it out of MyLevel, the package MyLevel, and put it into the package MyLevel 2. But since there's only one static mesh inside MyLevel and it pulls it out of this, what's going to happen to MyLevel?
It's going to disappear.
It's going to disappear. But if I had 2 or 3 static meshes over here, MyLevel would stay, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and just say MyLevel 2, tell it OK. You'll notice MyLevel 2 up here. If I do a drop down, you'll notice there is no other MyLevel in here, as we just kind of talked about. So let's go ahead and come back down here to rename again. All right, group. If I want to go ahead and put this guy into a group, maybe I'll just say wall units. Tell it OK. It's now going to actually put this into a group. And finally, if we want to actually rename static mesh itself from my creation to, I don't know, give me something quick, Logan.
The wall.
The wall. And tell it OK. Then it's going to change the name of it to the wall. Simple enough. All right, so load entire package. We've already taken a look at this. It's the same thing as this icon right here that just allows us to go in there when we load a map in, and it brings in all the packages that have static meshes that we're using inside that map, but it doesn't load all of the static meshes that's inside the given packages. This will, of course, bring in all of those things then, all of the static meshes. So same thing as we saw earlier. Add to level, this basically does the same thing that you saw earlier with the insert static mesh button right here. What it's going to do is simply add the static mesh to the level where your camera's at. Create from selection, we've already taken a look at that. And then if we've got multiple groups, we can go to the next group or the previous group. Okay. Coming over here to view, view docked as if this thing was a floating browser. Remember we said don't attempt doing that. But if it was indeed floating and you tell it to dock, it docks back inside with all of the other browsers inside this window right here. Okay. Show collisions. This is something we're going to spend a good bit of time on near the end of this VTM. And collisions are, of course, very important when dealing with static meshes and your player, projectiles, etc. inside the game. Of course, you need to have the ability to actually collide with static meshes. Kind of makes sense. So if we want to, we can come in here and say Show Collision. Now, I just turned it on. Logan, I'm not seeing nothing. What's wrong?
We don't have a collision model for that mesh.
We don't have a collision model for it. And there's all sorts of different ways that we can go about creating collision models. I'm just going to do a real quick one by coming over here to Collision Tools. And I'll just come down here and do a Fit 18 dot. And we'll talk about that in detail a little bit later on. But take a look at this. You get this little pink beveled bounding box. Not really a box no more, but it's beveled. That's why. That fits this guy for the most part. And this is now basically where my collisions are going to be calculated, correct?
Right, and you can specify what uses this box for a collision. Generally, your player will collide with this box, whereas projectiles will collide with the actual graphics triangles.
Right. Okay, so now if I come up here and turn Show Collisions off, of course it disappears. So we go ahead and come back down here and turn that back on. Up underneath Show Collision, we also have Show Karma Primitives. This is also pretty important when you start dealing with Karma or the dynamics engine inside of Unreal Ed and Unreal Tournament 2003. Karma, basically, the collision for it. It's going to define where. See, how do I want to say this, Logan? Well, basically, like anything that's using Karma, like if you've got a dead body, a ragdoll effect, how it's going to collide with it, where the collisions are going to occur, or if you've got a vehicle and you ram into it, or anything that's using Karma for that matter.
Right. This is the bounding box of how Karma objects are going to collide with it.
Exactly. So if I come down here and say Show Karma Primitives, take a look at that. Okay. And so we've got two different things there right now. Basically, the Karma collisions using the standard collision model, and you can see that they look exactly the same. You can still see there is two, though. There's a pink one and the darker orange-colored one. And we've also got some new information up here, collision primitives over here. We've got one. Now, we can come over here to really kind of distinguish between the two if we wanted to. Come over to Collision Tools and come down here to Fit Karma Primitive, and let's make it a sphere. And what it's going to do is it's going to tell us that the static mesh already has a Karma collision geometry. Do we want to replace it with a sphere? I'll go ahead and tell it yes. And this is going to make it real easy to see that we do have two different types of collisions going on here. We've got our collision model back here, which is going to deal with your players, projectiles, etc. And then we've got our Karma collision geometry right here, which is going to deal with things that's using Karma.
Right. If you were to actually load that up in a map, you'd find that if you walked around on this or bumped into it, your player would bump into the pink mesh.
That's right.
And if a body hit it or a vehicle drove into it, it would be hitting the green sphere.
It would
the
bump in back here. Exactly. Okay, very cool. So let's go ahead and come back over here and turn off our Show Collision and Show Karma Primitives. Come over here to Collision Tools real quick. We're going to be talking about all of these in depth a little bit later on in the VTM, like I said. One of these, import an ASCII file as collision. This right now is not enabled in this particular build of the editor. And actually, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for the menu bar at the top, for the toolbar. Let's see, we've talked about these. Anything else that you can think of, Logan, that we need to talk about as far as the actual browser itself is concerned?
Nope, that pretty much covers it.
Okay, a lot of different things that we've talked about. This is a very simple lesson, but at the same time, it's a very important lesson for the simple fact you want to know how to use all the features that are available for you inside the Static Mesh browser. So that's going to wrap up this lesson right here. Thanks, guys.